welcome to the stage Kari Kiernan. Give it up for Kari. That's you, right down the road. Give it up for Kari coming to the stage. Mill Valley's own.
Is that okay? I've never written a book, so we don't have to even worry about that. The summer I turned 17, I was accepted to a summer school for the arts for high school students. It was a month-long residency at Cal Arts, and there were students there from all over California who were involved in all kinds of different art disciplines. And I was there for the theater program, and found out that when you can see people who can paint a portrait or play a symphony, it's sort of hard to believe that walking around pretending to be a fictional person completely counts as art. And that is why it's very important for actors to spend a lot of time with other actors, so that you can talk a lot about your craft and how one's body is one's instrument. And because I went to TAM, which is not the kind of school where you do bye-bye birdie in the gym, I was well ahead of the game. So I'd spent years already lying on the floor, imagining various parts of my body filling with colored vapor, and I'd done a fair number of trust falls, and I had a passing understanding of Stanislavski. So, and when we were there, the actors needed to kind of legitimize themselves among all these other artists. So we did have a very full schedule devoted to honing our instruments. We had stage combat, and we had vocal training, and we had daily Tai Chi, which, P.S., when you see old Chinese ladies doing it in the park, looks like a super easy thing to do. And it is really hard and painful. 2 days of Tai Chi, I could not walk up a flight of stairs. Words to the wise. And while we were all very devoted to the rigor of our training, what we really wanted to be doing was acting. We would have liked to have had scripts filled with pathos and preferably lengthy monologues for our characters. And so we were particularly excited about our actual acting class. And for this, we were broken into smaller groups, and every group had a different teacher. And my class was taught in a little black box theater. And when we went in, we all sat on the floor in a circle, which was great because my training had suggested that sitting on the floor in a circle is the backbone of theater training. And I do not actually remember our teacher's name, but I like to think of her as being called Esmeralda. And from that first class, we would not necessarily have known that Esmeralda fell way, way more on the colored vapor end of the spectrum than on the lengthy monologue end of the spectrum. But time would tell. But on the first day, we just had to introduce ourselves and say something about ourselves. So I said that my birthday was July 22nd, which was still a few weeks away, but we were all gonna still be there, and I was kind of excited about that. And then there was a girl who was just on the other side of the circle from me, and she said, "Oh, that's my birthday too." And I was totally horrified. I had seen this girl around. She was the most recognizable girl at the school, and quite possibly the most recognizable girl in the entire town of Valencia, California. So imagine there are 400 California teenagers flitting around in their shorts and t-shirts, and then there's this one girl who has jet black dyed hair and the full, pancake white face and the painted on eyebrows and tights and boots and 70 pounds of vintage clothing. Being a goth takes commitment, and even in New York in the winter, but to be a goth in Southern California in the summer is just bonkers. And I was actually terrified of this girl, and I really didn't want anything to link us, particularly not something so sort of profound as my birthday. But I thought, well, it's a few weeks away, it'll blow over, people will forget, it'll be fine. And meanwhile, Esmeralda's curriculum was continuing to unfold without a script in sight, so we had other things to think about. Esmeralda was a big fan of improv, but probably not the kind of improv that you might be familiar with. I would say that sketch comedy felt solidly outside of Esmeralda's wheelhouse. She split the class into two halves, and half of us were guards and half of us were prisoners. And for 3 days, we had to enact a kind of free-form narrative in which we were in a post-apocalyptic concentration camp. And on the 3rd day, to regroup and heal the wounds that had been visited upon our ensemble, we sat on the floor in a circle and sang a song together. And for some reason, this song was The Rose. Oh, you do remember this song. So this is a song where for about 37 verses, many things are compared to love, or love is compared to many things, I guess. Some say love, it is a hunger, an everlasting need. This song was not topping the charts in the late 80s, so how we came to it, I could not tell you. But for whatever reason, it was deemed as deeply moving, and we sang it every single day. It was kind of the closing ritual of the class. And for whatever reason, my classmates were just eating this up. The weird improvs, the strange song, all of it. Except for me and Maria, the goth. And previously I had sort of thought that being a goth was just, an exercise in being sardonic. I thought it was the rule, and I didn't know there was room for any kind of nuance at all or humor. But I began to notice that the things that I thought were absurd, she also thought were absurd. And this realization was kind of like having been kidnapped by a cult, realizing that there is one other person who's only feigning belief, which actually sounds like an improv that Esmeralda would have totally enjoyed. So sure, we sang The Rose, but we sang it with a secret undercurrent of irony, and that made all the difference. Among Esmeralda's beliefs was that the work should be grounded in the physical body. So we did an exercise where we had to, quote, throw our bodies into a sculpture as inspired by various things she would call out. Things like homelessness, rape, poverty. I think that it's possible that she had had an upsetting childhood. We never had happy sculptures. One time she did actually say, using only your little finger, express how you feel about nuclear war. Go! And she also was really enthusiastic about gibberish, which is an improv tool where two people are in a scene and you have to make your intentions known to the other person, but you may only speak in gibberish. And this is supposed to be plausibly like a real language, but not an imitation of an actual language you've ever heard of. And I would suggest that another way to practice communicating on stage would be to do scenes from plays that had been written in your native language. But Esmeralda differed in her views. And so after many in-class gibberish exercises, we had kind of a gibberish final exam. And we were to walk in pairs, chatting up a storm with our partner down to Vista Village, which was this little shopping center, the only thing within walking distance of the school. And once we were there, we were supposed to purchase something in gibberish from some poor, unsuspecting civilian, and then gibberish our way back up the hill. And so Maria and I, by this point inseparable, are walking down the shoulder of the road. It's 90 degrees out. She's got her full get-up on, and we are saying to each other, blah, 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 blah. When from behind us is a very clear English sentence, Maria and Kari, please find new partners. Totally busted. On our birthday, Esmeralda asked us to please wait in the hall. And we are out there for a worryingly long time where we have to assume she's just creating some kind of voyage down the birth canal improv. And finally she opens the doors and we can see the theater is dark behind her. And she brings us in, draws us in by the hands, and we sit on the floor in a circle, and she blindfolds us, and she says, "You are visitors to a foreign planet, and these are the gods of that planet, and they all have a special gift for your birthday." And all of our poor classmates have to come up with some sort of tribute, among which is a serenade, if you will, from an over-loud, over-dramatic boy named Roland, whom we particularly disliked, who sang like a full-fledged Broadway-style rendition of "When You Wish Upon a Star." And we are just clinging to each other's hands in our blindfolded state, trying to keep from laughing. And I thought, thank God I am not the lone visitor to this foreign planet. I could not imagine that I'd ever not wanted to share my birthday with this girl. So, for our 35th birthday, Maria and I went to Italy. And due to some faulty understanding of Italian, we did accidentally insist to a man that we had been born in his cafe. And I guess you could say that we had unwittingly revised our Vista Village field trip on an international scale. And that is not inaccurate, I guess, because for now, what is very nearly 30 years, we have been ignoring everything Esmeralda taught us, but we have simply declined to find new partners. Thanks very much.